So welcome, Mark Dembovsky, to the J-Commerce Business Soundbite. Can I just ask you to start tell us a bit about yourself and the projects you've worked on, please?
I've done, I guess, two separate types of things in my career. One would be as in senior management roles, chief executive and other roles like that in professional services organizations in different parts of the world. Having grown up in Cape Town, transferred to New York, and then transferred to London. So I've worked and lived on 3 continents. And then the more project-based types of roles that I've held, which have included, for example, many years ago in the late 80s, working at Linklaters on the Office of the Year 2000 project, which was a project aimed at looking at what technology might be like in the year 2000. Remember, this is the late 80s, and how that would impact the way people would work. This is a time when internet didn't exist. Email was kind of a flicker in somebody's eyes, and we were trying to predict how people would operate differently at that time. Another project was setting up Reed Smith University, which was a joint venture with the Wharton Business School. And that was trying to create a virtual university for a large international professional services organization. And a third group of projects would be doing mergers around the world. And I've done mergers from Los Angeles to Hong Kong and many bits in between. So that's a bit about my background.
That's really interesting, quite varied.
It is varied.
Yeah.
I've been fortunate in having a range of things. No day has ever been the same as the day before. So I've been really grateful for that.
That's good. That's good. Okay. So how did you get the idea or vision for your consultancy business, and what sort of research did you do before moving forward with that?
Well, I think in each of these instances, there's a different kind of vision and a different type of idea that you get. When, for example, doing Reed Smith University, that actually came out of a brainstorming session I was having with the managing partner of a very large global law firm. And we were just brainstorming about a whole host of different things. And then he, in fact, turned around to me and said, you know what, we should set up a corporate university. And I said, well, what are you talking about? And he said, I don't know, go figure. And so I did. And it was just from that spark of an idea that I went back and thought about it. And we set up this fantastic virtual university with the Wharton Business School. In fact, we ended up winning the Cubic Award, which is the Corporate University Best in Class award. So that idea came out of a pure brainstorming idea. Mergers, for example, would come out of standing back and doing some really hard research into where are you trying to get to, what are you trying to achieve, what markets are you trying to be in, what types of industry sectors are you looking at, etc. And then going out and doing them and going out and finding the opportunities and creating the opportunities, doing the negotiation and implementing them and making them work. And the Office of the Year 2000 project actually came about because I was working in the New York office of Linklaters, really trying to change the way that office operated. This was the first office of Linklaters in America. And 6 months into that project, the senior partner for Linklaters came up to New York and said, crazy that you're doing this just for the New York office, you should be doing it for the firm worldwide. And so that's how that opportunity came about.
Do you think they'll ask you to do Office of the Year 2020 based on how COVID is going?
Who knows? Who knows?
You never know. You never know. Okay. So in terms of when you're starting all this off, did you have anybody to bounce ideas off? Family, friends, any business associates?
Yeah, I guess I've had different people to bounce ideas off at different times of my life. But I don't think I've ever had a career mentor, as it were, somebody who's looked at me and said, gee, Mark, I think this would be good for you. And how about taking that path? And no, you shouldn't be doing X or Y. And I guess it's because I've never had such a person. And I've always wanted to have such a person that I've tried to step in and perform that role for loads of other people, both young people and older people. I think there's enormous value in trying to help people, push them up the ladder or up the path as best you can. I don't like the idea that anybody should struggle at any time. And if I'm able to be there to help somebody, then that's what I seek to try to do. So not having had a mentor myself, I've tried to play that role for other people. And I've had a whole range of people, and I've learned a fortune from playing that role for very many different people over many years.
That's really good. Is there any advice that you could give, like just like small tidbits, maybe that, you know, for people who are looking for a mentor or just need like a kick, basically?
Yeah, I really think it's enormously valuable to have a mentor, and therefore I think you need to be very clear about what it is that you want somebody to help you with, and you need to give people the assistance to assist you. So what I mean by that, if I am looking to break into a particular new market, for example, and I need help from somebody who understands that market, who perhaps can make introductions to me in that market, then I need to go to the person and be very, very clear that this is what I'm asking them to help me with. Most people, not all, but I would say the majority of people, are only too willing to help. Most people want to feel wanted and want to feel that they've helped you along the way. But most people actually function in a bit of a box and can't really understand what you're asking unless you help them and give them the specifics of what you're after. So if I were to go to somebody and say, I really need to break into the Manchester market, who do you know in Manchester? Who can you introduce me to, etc. But if I go to them with a vague comment about, I'm looking to go into new markets, or whatever, that's not going to help. So my tip is be very clear to yourself and then to the other person what it is that you want them to help you with, and give them the clear information, what you need. And I think that will that delivers you the better kinds of answers than the more vague comments you might make.
Yes, I guess it's important to know how to ask for help.
It's really important to know how to ask for help, and you need to have invested that time and energy yourself in thinking about it before you pick up the phone to whomever and say, can you help me? And so many of us are afraid to ask for help. I think we all need to get over that hurdle. And there will be times when somebody doesn't return your call or doesn't return your email, and you get put off and say, you see, I shouldn't, nobody's ever going to help me. Don't feel that way. The reason they haven't answered your call is probably nothing to do with you and everything to do with them. Call them again, or if I've always believed if I can't get somewhere in a straight line, I'm sure I can get in some kind of wiggly line. So if I can't get to that person, perhaps there's somebody else who can help me. But keep persevering, push forward, and make sure that you get the kind of advice and support that you need. And as I say, there's usually plenty of people out there who are only too willing and too happy to provide that support. They may not be able to provide financial support, but most people can provide some kind of time, even if that time isn't exactly the time that you want it to be. If you're too specific, like I can only be available between 9 and 10, that's too difficult. But be prepared to walk with somebody to the car or travel with them to X or Y place, just so that you can be sitting with them, listening to them. If you create flexibility in your life, they'll be there to support you.
How important is professional advice in guiding you? But you've sort of answered that, I guess.
I think just bear in mind that professional advice, I mean, there's professional advice as in what advice do I need to get from the lawyer or the tax advisor or the whomever else. There's that type of advice. And then there's the more the general mentoring type of advice. From a professional advice, of course, you need to get the right advice. You need to operate within the law. You need to do the right things. You need to know that if you're going to break into a new market, you know how to follow those regulations, etc., etc. But at the same time, you also have to recognize that many professional advisors have actually never done the doing of what you're doing. They've advised on things, but haven't actually done it. They've not broken into that market themselves, or they've not created that new product themselves or whatever. And so they might be a little bit more cautious than you need them to be. And you need to push forward with some of that. You need to recognize that you are the one with the idea or the entrepreneurial spirit or the whatever. And sometimes advisors can hold you back in a way that's not terribly helpful. But of course, you have to consult with the relevant professionals to be sure that you're doing things in the most legal way. But when it comes to taking risks, we all have a different risk profile. We all operate in a different way. You have to understand what your risk profile is, how you operate, and what you're prepared to invest in something and be prepared to lose or not, as the case may be.
Yeah, because for a lot of these professionals, it's more like theoretical and hypothetical, because like you say, they haven't actually done it, have they?
Well, maybe theoretical and hypothetical is too unfair on them. But they have not actually done it. They have not actually gone and knocked on a door and sold a product or invented an X or done a Y. You know, so they are coming from a very, very different place. And that's not to knock them, because hey, I've been a professional advisor most of my life. But recognize that what it is that you need from them, and also what you need to take responsibility for yourself and drive forward on yourself.
Yeah. Okay, so next question is all about networking. What's the value of networking, especially now, with COVID? It's probably very different to what you've been doing in recent years or in your whole business life. What sort of advice would you give to people trying to network, especially in this day and age?
Well, I'd say the following. There's no debate. Networking is essential. You can't actually get through your career without networking. Trouble is, I actually learned that lesson too late in my career. I didn't really understand the value, probably not the value, I didn't understand the need for networking. I thought within the organization that I was, it was fine to network within that organization, but I didn't really see the necessity to go outside of that organization. I was totally wrong, and I learned that lesson too late. And if there's one piece of advice I would give people, is get out there and network really, really early on in your career. But networking is not a one-dimensional thing. So many times people think networking is about going to a cocktail party and being seen at the cocktail party and getting out there and spending your time doing that. We're all different people. We're all good at different things. I am rubbish at cocktail parties. I loathe them. I'm useless. I'm not very good at walking around and talking to people, and that's not who I am. I can get up and speak in front of 1,000 people with no difficulty whatsoever, but I'm not very good in a cocktail party situation. So understand who you are, understand what works for you. You've got to do the things that work for you. So if you're not a cocktail party person, you may be a speaker, or you may be a writer, or you may be something else. But the purpose of networking is about being relevant to yourself and to other people, and finding ways of interconnecting with other people to be in a mutually supportive kind of relationship where I can help you and you can help me. So what that means is I have to understand what it is that I've got that I can offer to somebody else. And going back to what we were talking about earlier on, what I can get, not in a negative sense, but what I can get from somebody else. Now, we can all do that in different ways. One of the really simple ways that I've always operated, and I think I'm pretty good at it, and I think I'm one of the few people who does it, is I make it my business, bizarrely, to try to understand or hear from you when your birthday is. So if your birthday is on the 16th of May, I'll put a note in my diary saying, Johnny's birthday is on the 16th of May. Now, that doesn't take any brilliance on my part. It just means that when it gets to the 16th of May, it will pop up that's Johnny's birthday. And I will send a message, an email, pick up the phone or something to Johnny and say, hi, Johnny, happy birthday. And they'll say, how on earth did you know that? Now, networking isn't about just being clever. It's about making sure that when you connect with a person, you give them something relevant to think about you. So I also know about Johnny that he is really into Arsenal. So if I find something that is happening about Arsenal, I'll send Johnny a message. Hey, did you see X or Y happened? And you'll keep the connection going. But I mean, of course, I've only used Arsenal because I'm so not a football person, but if you take something that's really relevant to them, to their work, to something that's going to help them progress in their in their careers, and you see something and you send them a message or you contact them and say, did you understand A or B was going on? That might be of assistance to you. That is networking. That is about helping the other person. And I think it's got nothing to do with whether we're in a COVID period or not in a COVID period, or whatever. In fact, it's so much easier these days to network, in my view, simply by picking up the phone or by doing a Zoom call or by doing something, which doesn't require me to move even out of my house. I don't have to go to the cocktail party. I don't have to do any of those kinds of things. But the really important thing is knowing what's relevant to that person and how I can help that person, and then how they can help me in return. What's really important and what so many of us fail to do is to follow up. So we've done a really good job for somebody, piece of work which has been really good, and we think that that's the end of the relationship, or not the end of the. We think they will remember us forever. No, they won't. They'll think of somebody else going forward. You need to follow up. You need to keep in contact. You need to make sure that on a regular basis, based on what you learned from that person, what you learned with that person through a particular piece of work or piece of advice or whatever it might have been, that you've learned about them and you stayed in touch, touching base on the things that you know are relevant to them. That's, in my view, what networking is about.
That's really good. I think that's some of the best networking advice I've heard, actually. Very good.
I think people make it too complicated, and I think it's really, really simple. But I'd also give one other little piece of advice, and that is I have a very good friend who taught me the most incredible piece of information. I was running a course on elevator pitches. What's an elevator pitch? Yeah, it's a simple thing. If you hop into an elevator, you've got however many 15 seconds from time ground floor to top floor to tell the person about you. That means you need to have thought very carefully in advance what it is that's relevant about you that you can convey in a short, concise, helpful way. And it isn't something that's going to pop into your head there and then on the spot. You need to have thought about it. So I was running this course and helping people think through what how they might put that elevator pitch together. And my friend who was on the course turned around and said, it's really simple. I'm a lawyer. Okay, fine. If I were to say to anybody at a cocktail party or in the elevator, whatever, if they said to me, what do you do? And I said, I'm a lawyer. Well, they've already switched off because there's 10,000 other lawyers out there. And so what's so important about this lawyer? But what he says is, I'm a corporate finance lawyer. Okay, I don't even know what corporate finance lawyer means. Just like, again, will go straight over my head. But actually, the words he uses when he introduces himself to people and they ask him, what does he do? He says, I help people find money. Now I'm listening. Now I know what you do. Now I know how to go about figuring out when I need to use you. So in a short, simple sentence, figure out what it is about you that is helpful to somebody else. And that's your elevator pitch. That's the thing that you use in networking. That's what people will remember about you when they're struggling. I need to find money. Jimmy's the person who finds money for me.
One thing of hindsight you said was how you shouldn't start networking earlier. Is there anything else that falls under that bracket?
I think for myself, just talking for myself, I wish I'd become my own boss earlier on. I wish I hadn't always thought that it was necessary to work in a large organization or for other people. I think sometimes you need to have the strength of conviction that what you're doing is the right thing and try and make it on your own. And I never did that, and I should have. And that so if there was something I would have done differently, that's what it would have been. But if there's a piece of advice that I would give to somebody, the best piece of advice I would give is don't be afraid to ask. And as we said earlier on, don't be afraid to ask. But when you do ask, be really clear to the other person what it is that you can that you need or that they can help you with. Be really clear about that. I think that's a really important piece of advice along the way.
Okay, I think we've covered off all the questions. Some really, really, really good answers there. Thank you very much.
You're welcome, and good luck with your program.
Thank you very much.
Okay. God bless. Thank you.